What's up guys, EPICJONTUAZON here. I am doing a little bit of work on the 2002 WRX wagon and I haven't updated you guys on it in a little bit, so I figured I'd shoot a quick video. And this would be good information for you guys that have older cars, not specifically Subarus, but any car in general. I'm going to be working on the radiator. I found that I have a coolant leak, so I'm going to be replacing the upper and lower radiator hoses, which I'll show you in a second. But definitely check and keep an eye out on your hoses. If you happen to see something like I'm going to show you in a second, definitely you want to change them because it's just a disaster waiting to happen. So I'm glad I caught this up front. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. Now let me show you what I got first. This is the upper radiator hose and this is the lower radiator hose. I bought 4 new clamps. And I got 2 gallons of long-lasting coolant. For the WRX, it's like a 2-in-1, so basically 2 of these mixed with distilled water makes another 2 gallons. So I bought 2 of them, so I have 4 gallons total. The other 2 are in the car, so I didn't feel like pulling those out just yet. But these clamps are actually pretty cool. They're supposed to be a little bit more heavy-duty than the OEM ones, which are like that. They just look newer and they feel beefier, so hopefully these will serve me well. First off, this is what a normal radiator hose looks like. It's pretty uniform throughout. Besides the angles, there's nothing really that sticks out to you as abnormal. But if you come towards the car here and you look at this hose, I'm not sure if I can get you a good angle here. You can tell where the clamp is. It's thin, and then it's starting to bulge around it. So when you see that bulge, it is pretty much only a matter of time before this line bursts or just pops off. And you can kind of see it on here. I don't know if this is due to the back pressure, but the hose seemed to have sort of slipped back off of the radiator. And I moved this a couple of times, and I'm not sure if that's due to that pressure back there that's causing this to keep sliding. But I'm going to just replace the whole thing, do a coolant flush, and hopefully that'll be the end of that. Down here on the lower radiator hose, you can see I put a cup there, and that has been leaking for a little bit. So I want to say that's like a week. So it's not a heavy leak, but it is a leak nonetheless, which I want to address. And I've tightened down that clamp a couple of times, but to no effect. It hasn't helped, and I feel like if I tighten it down too much, it's just going to snap the clamp. So I just let it leak or drip a little bit until I was ready to change and do the flush and change them both. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to bring it to a local shop. They're going to put it up on the lift. There's a nipple over here on this side. You can see that down there, which is where you're going to drain all your coolant. So my plan tomorrow is to add like a line to that, open up the valve, and have the coolant drain. Once that's done, I'm going to take off the upper radiator hose and the lower radiator hose, put the new ones on, put the new clamps on, refill it, burp it, and then hopefully that'll be the end of that leak. Pretty simple, kind of daunting. I've never burped the radiator before, but it should be pretty simple. I think the idea is to fill it from the top reservoir here, just so that all the air bubbles climb to the top. We're going to let it get to operating temperature, which will push all the bubbles up, and then I assume once there's no more bubbles, it's been properly burped, and then it's ready to drive. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys a quick overlook on what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, just so I don't forget tomorrow morning. But then I'll come back to you, and hopefully you guys will see in a second a successful coolant change. Alright, so there you go. The upper and lower radiator hose have been completely replaced, as well as the clamps, and we did a whole coolant flush. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what happened, and then over this course I will play some clips I took over at the shop. I was just chit-chatting with the guys over there. I haven't seen them in a while, so I'll pretty much go through exactly what they did. Again, so let's start off with how we drain the coolant. Down here, there's that nipple, and we used a little piece of hose that we attached to the ends so to make it a little bit cleaner and easier to direct. We basically poured that out into just a catch can, bottle. You can use whatever you need. And that took a little bit of time, maybe like a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just drain fully. And while it drained, at a certain point you can start working on the top hose, and then once most of it's drained, then you can work on the bottom hose. Just keep in mind, when you get to the bottom hose, there's usually a little bit of fluid in there, so just be careful of that when you take that off. But if you take a look at these clamps, I really like these clamps. They're a lot beefier than the OEM clamps. And I'll have to search around and hopefully I can find a part number and leave it in the description below. But you can see that this isn't sliding anymore, and I drove this to work and back home, and it hasn't moved. Usually by the time I get back home, this hose would have slid a little bit, but it is staying in place, which is a good sign. Let me actually pull out the old hose. And so here are the old hoses, and you can already see what I was talking about before. It's bowing out a little bit, so a good thing I caught this when it was, because this could be disastrous. It's going to split because it's stretching so much. It could just pop off because of the pressure, and it's just worn down on the inside. There you can see that wall, just the lining has just been like decaying. So yeah, you definitely want to keep an eye on your hoses. Not even just the radiator hoses, but any other hoses. If you start to see them bowing, like let's see, like right up here on the reservoir, if that decides to start bowing, you definitely want to look into that and get that changed. But here, let's also compare clamps. Heavy duty, I want to call the blue one heavy duty, and this is just the OEM clamp. I would opt to getting this kind of a new clamp if you can. And I was just talking with the mechanic. They're telling me that usually when you tighten down these clamps, usually they'll end up snapping just because of the pressure. Whereas he felt with the blue clamp, it was solid and had no issues tightening it down, to a little bit of a torque spec. I'm not sure what spec it was. It was kind of going by feel, but he said it felt more solid than the OEM clamps. So definitely take a look out for clamps if you guys are in the market in changing your hoses. And then other than that, this is the lower radiator hose that we changed. This is the reason why I started doing the hoses in general, because it was leaking from one of these, and there was just a lot of corrosion around the brim of it. And I don't know, I'm not sure if that was the cause of the leak, but obviously when you're changing this, don't just slap the new hose on. You definitely want to clean it around the surface, just so that nothing is giving it a reason to leak. And then other than that, I guess I could talk about the burping of the radiator. Basically you top off your radiator with all 50-50 fluid, and then you'll work your way up to the reservoir and top that off with a funnel. And you'll turn the car on, let it warm up a little bit, and once your thermostat kicks on and your fans turn on, the fluid should start to go down a little bit, and then at that point you'll start squeezing the upper tube, in which all the bubbles will start making its way up to the highest point. Once it stops bubbling, you'll wait for the fluid to sink down, and don't worry about overfilling it. You just don't want it to become completely empty, but just leave a little bit of fluid in there so you can see the bubbles come out. Any extra fluid will end up going into your lower reservoir, so don't worry about that. And once it stops bubbling, you can put your cap back on and take off. I hope this video has been informative and helps you guys out in any way. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next video. See ya.